And now at 5, the vice president makes a stop in Indy. The conversation the governor says they had about redrawing Indiana's congressional maps.
And rallying against redistricting, the opposition to the discussion ahead of the midterms and the involvement the White House has taken in the conversation.
And temperatures currently in the 60s and 70s. We're headed for a very comfortable weekend. It's going to feel like fall. I'll let you know what to expect in your weekend forecast.
And a lot of people are headed out now for fall break.
What you can expect if you're headed to the airport this weekend. Live from Indy, you're watching 13 News.
We start tonight at 5 with Indiana Republicans who once again now are considering redistricting after a visit here to Indianapolis from the vice president.
Vice President J.D. Vance. It is his second trip to Indy in 2 months to discuss the push to redraw the state's congressional maps. Jenna Webster has been on this story for us outside of the State House today with a look at what she's learned about the meeting. Can you share, Jenna?
Well, yeah, Felicia, at this point, Republican lawmakers are being very tight-lipped about what, actually was discussed in that meeting today. We do know that it was redistricting. They have acknowledged that, but what J.D. Vance was talking about with lawmakers, they just really haven't given us that information at this point. We do know that the vice president met with Governor Mike Braun. He met with Republicans in the House and the Senate. The House Speaker releasing a statement thanking Vance for coming and talking with the caucus today. And he called it that he was able to facilitate an open dialogue on this important topic. He called it a productive conversation where Vance was able to answer questions from lawmakers. And he says, quote, "We'll keep discussing within our caucus and with the Hoosiers we represent as we come to a decision soon." Governor Mike Braun, meanwhile, after meeting with J.D. Vance, called it a thoughtful discussion, and he talked about the importance of ensuring fair representation for every Hoosier. Again, this is J.D. Vance's second trip to Indy in just 2 months, just after a couple weeks after his first visit. Republican lawmakers also went to the White House. He was here for around 3 hours today, arriving at the State Library around 10:30. So with this idea that maybe they're trying to put some pressure on Republican lawmakers to come to a decision on redrawing the maps, how this might influence that, we really just don't know at this point. Governor Mike Braun has said he wants it to be at a point where Republican lawmakers feel comfortable with calling a special session, which he says could happen anytime between November and early next year. So really just kind of in a holding pattern, waiting to see what happens next, guys.
All right, Jenna Webster reporting live for us tonight. Thank you so much. And just like the last time that the VP came here to talk about this issue, those against it gathered at the Indiana State House, protesting the talks.
Brandon Schaff was there and shares their message to the vice president.
At least 100 people gathered here in the State House, all with that unified message saying no to redistricting.
Friday's protest resembled the one that happened last time Vice President Vance was in town in August, also to discuss redistricting in Indiana.
We want fair elections, and we don't want them trying to steal our votes. That is against everything America stands for.
Beverly Matthews says Indiana should make their own decisions instead of being strong-armed by the vice president. Angela Cox says Hoosiers worked hard during the last redistricting process in 2021 to make the congressional district lines fair.
We're a very red state the way it is, and groupthink is not something that I'm a big fan of, and we need to have all thoughts, processes at the table.
The protest was organized by Indiana Conservation Voters. Executive Director Megan Robertson says that redistricting efforts are a power grab.
Because Washington, D.C. politicians are worried that their policies aren't good enough to win elections. They want to come here and try to bully our legislature into drawing new maps so that they can cheat to win.
Indiana State Senator Shelley Yoder says if redistricting was coming, it would have already happened, like it did in Texas and Missouri.
But it is because, Hoosiers, you are speaking out. You're standing up. You're saying no. Not in our state.
Indiana State Representative Phil Giaquenta says that this is about D.C. Republicans being nervous about the 2026 election.
And the reason is because of their failed policies, and they know it. You talk about polls, they can read the polls. And the polls tell them they're losing, and that's why they're going around the country trying to gain any advantage that they can.
Brandon Schaff, 13 News.
All right, thank you, Brandon. And Robertson added that VP Vance should be in D.C. dealing with the government shutdown, not coming here to push for redistricting. And we've been covering the conversation surrounding redistricting for months. We're going to keep covering these conversations, and you can follow along with us on air and online as lawmakers discuss whether they want the governor to call a special session to redraw the congressional maps. Guys?
All right, thanks so much. Friday night, we got a lot of people heading out for football games and other events. Here's a live look downtown right now. So this Friday night forecast, oh so important. Rob is in for Angela tonight and lets us know what he sees when he looks to the sky.
Yeah, you know, we saw those clouds that rolled in during the second half of the day, and it might have made you think, hang on a second, is it going to rain tonight?
Right.
I thought there was a chance we might get a little sprinkle or drizzle. I think most of that's not going to happen. Most of that's going to stay away. We are watching those clouds. There is some moisture trying to move through. Most of what's moving through currently are the high, thin clouds. The low clouds are actually a little farther back behind that. And in between, there's an area that's getting into some sunshine here. So when these clouds finally arrive, one, it will keep the temperatures a little bit milder. And there is a little sprinkle that's showing up on radar to our north and west. But that's about it. I think the rain chances are extremely low. You're going to get a very pleasant evening out of this. And overnight, a little sprinkle could be possible. 64 our current temperature, but look where the sunshine has boosted the temperatures up close to 70. I think your temperatures will ease their way down this evening through the 60s. We'll end up in the 50s for our overnight lows tonight. 54 expected, mostly cloudy skies. That's how we will start our Saturday. I'll have a look at Saturday's forecasts coming up.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Well, tonight, the Johnson County coroner faces 14 charges accused of providing alcohol to minors.
It all started when a 17-year-old girl's family accused him of stalking her through unwanted text messages. Mike Pruitt is charged with 7 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor and 7 counts of furnishing alcohol to a minor.
In new court documents, a state police trooper investigating the case says Pruitt was mentoring the teen in 4-H when he started texting her about alcohol. Investigators say the texts included Pruitt asking her what drinks she liked, where to take them, telling her to hide the cans from her mother and to delete the texts. The detective says he also found photos of Pruitt and the teen drinking together and a video Pruitt took showing the teen and her cousin drinking inside Pruitt's truck. The detective said both appeared intoxicated.
The man who was convicted of killing an IMPD officer in 2020 and attempting also to murder his girlfriend went back to court this morning.
Elias Dorsey was resentenced today and given more time for one of the charges in that case. Our Marina Silva was in the courtroom.
And she has a reaction tonight to this new sentence.
The bottom line for Elias Dorsey, he likely won't be spending any additional time in prison, even though a judge sentenced him to an additional 14 years on one of his charges.
Dorsey is currently in prison for killing IMPD officer Breanne Leith in April 2020. At the same time, he was also convicted of confining and attempting to kill his girlfriend, Aisha Brown. The issue in court today, the criminal confinement conviction. The Court of Appeals said he wasn't sentenced correctly the first time. Today, a judge gave him 16 years, 14 more than the original sentence. But again, he likely won't serve any additional time behind bars because he'll serve it at the same time as other charges.
Pray for Aisha and her family as well. She's got a long road of recovery for herself.
Officer Leith's mom and her friends were in the courtroom today to show their support for Aisha.
It didn't turn out like what we wanted, and it's very disappointing. But that just proves that there is room for improvement in our judicial system, and people need to learn about how this works.
At the original sentencing, Dorsey was determined to be guilty but mentally ill. His attorneys told me today he has not received formal mental health services in prison.
Officer Leith's family has coined the term "Be Like Bree," a motto to spread kindness in the community. Reporting from the Marion County Courthouse, Marina Silva, 13 News.
And this afternoon, the prosecutor's office said it believes adding the longer sentence onto the full length of prison time would have more appropriately reflected the seriousness of the crime.
A man who killed a teen in southern Indiana now has become the 3rd death row execution in Indiana ever since Indiana resumed capital punishment last year.
Roy Ward died by lethal injection at the state prison in Michigan City just after 12:30 this morning. He exhausted his legal options after more than 2 decades, and his attorney said days before the execution, he became, quote, very remorseful about the crime.
Ward raped and murdered 15-year-old Stacy Payne at her family's home in Dale back in 2001. This is a picture of her there. Her family said they were ready for justice to be carried out. Those were statements they made ahead of the execution.
Developing tonight, the woman accused of helping a former Madison County councilman avoid arrest is out of jail. That's according to our partners at the Herald Bulletin. U.S. Marshals arrested the 65-year-old at her home in Maryland last month. She is accused of assisting a criminal and faces 1 to 6 years in prison if convicted next year. She is accused of helping Stephen Sumner, who is charged with child sex crimes. Police say he was on the run for more than 2 years after failing to show up for a hearing. U.S. Marshals took him into custody in Kentucky last month.
Happening now. On this Friday night, fall break starting for many central Indiana schools. Thousands of people are being flying out of the airport. If they didn't already go this morning, they're going this weekend.
Should be a busy weekend. Anna Chalker shows us why this is one of the busiest travel days so far this year.
Okay, who's ready for a vacation? I know I am, and so are 24,000 people that are leaving the airport today for fall break travel. And it's been a busy one, I'll tell you now, not so much, but the busiest time we've seen around 5 to 5:30 this morning, the TSA pre-check line all the way through the main plaza here. But you know, while the line was long, it only took a couple minutes to really get everyone through, but it's going to be kind of highs and lows like that all day with those thousands of people coming through. The airport telling us this is one of the top 10 busiest days ever at the airport. So from this fall break period, that's about October 6th to the 24th, around 400,000 people will fly out. So because of that increased volume of people, airlines have increased their seating capacity by 6%. Now, I talked to a pretty big group of travelers. They're heading to Houston for a conference throughout the week, and they told us, you know, it was pretty quick to get through. They came with plenty of time to spare, and they're just ready to get on the flight and get out to Houston. So if you're heading out this weekend for fall break, here's some advice from the airport. Make sure you're getting here with a couple hours to spare, checking the wait times for TSA, but also your flight status and having all the documents you need. That includes that real ID. So once you get here, it's pretty smooth so you can get on your flight and get to your fall break destination. At the airport, Anna Chalker, 13 News.
Okay, a little preparation is a good thing, Anna. Issuing a warning about e-bikes.
The problems they're now seeing in Hamilton County, new at 5:30. But first at 5, President Trump threatened layoffs, and now they're beginning.
The impact they are expected to have on the federal workforce while the government is shut down. Plus, an end to the war between Israel and Hamas is now in sight.
The time Hamas has left to release Israeli hostages, and when President Trump now is saying he's making travel plans to the Middle East.